Welcome back inside DETV Sports. A few-week hiatus, but we are back and a lot to get into ahead of the week of the NBA Finals set to begin on Thursday. Maybe LeBron coming to the 76ers. We'll ask Matthew what he thinks about that here in a little while. NBA Draft, of course, just around the corner. Justin Jefferson inked a new deal. Some NFL stuff, so a lot to get into. But here we are, a few weeks off, some other filming going on, some big events here in Delaware, so I hope you were able to catch everything that DETV was able to bring you live in these last 2 weeks. But we are back on schedule, and let's dive in. Matthew, how are you feeling? We've got a special day today. It's just you and I because a member of the team will not be with us, and for good purpose. He's going to be welcoming in a new son to the world tonight, a new family of our new DETV Sports family member coming in tonight. So Jason McCall will not be with us. They are taking care of extra special business. So Jason, from all of us here, we're praying for you. Congratulations, and we can't wait to catch some pictures later on. So adding another member to the DETV Sports family. But Matthew, how you feeling here on a Monday? Good to be back.
Doing good, man. Just want to shot some positive energy towards Jason.
Absolutely.
And hope he gets some nice rest because he's going to need it. You know? And the long journey, the marathon continues.
And it was crazy, too. I mean, right as we were heading into the show, that news was coming in. So, again,
that's right.
Jason heading to the hospital. And, of course, a big night for them tonight. So congratulations. And now let's talk a little sports. But today in history, Matthew, that's where we're going to start. And it starts with Michael Jordan because on this day, I believe it was, 32 years ago,
that's right.
We had this clip, and this is what Jordan was able to do. Dennis, if we could cue that up here to begin the show. Today in history, 32 years ago, Michael Jordan. And Matthew, do you know what I'm alluding to here?
I don't.
I don't.
I'm curious here.
It's going to be a good one. It's one you're going to remember definitely. So we'll get that clip coming up here in a second. So that was today in history here 32 years ago. We'll talk about that before we dive in to some of our NBA Finals preview. And, of course, we're going to end the show with the stuff going on in the WNBA. I definitely want to get your opinion on that, and I'm sure all of our viewers do as well here a little later on in the show. But if we're going to move on here quickly to the finals preview, and then we'll dive back into today in history here in a little while. But we sat here, it was almost 3 weeks ago, the Celtics and the Mavericks battling in their respective conference finals, and Jason McCall not here for the celebration, a 4-game sweep of the Indiana Pacers. Not really a series at all. Halliburton goes down after 2 games in that series, and Boston able to take care of business the rest of the way. So they sweep their way to the finals, of course, the best team in the regular season, and then the stats in the playoffs are backing that up as well. They're one of the only teams to be the best in the regular season in net rating and then be the best team throughout the first 3 rounds of the playoffs en route to the NBA Finals. And on the other side, it was a team that you and I have been pretty fond of here the second half of the season, and that is the Dallas Mavericks, who have been fantastic since adding P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford at the trade deadline. The defense went to the best in the league after being horrid in the first half of the season. And through the final, I believe it was 30 games in the regular season, these were the 2 teams with the best record. Boston 26-6 in the final 32, and then Dallas 24-9 in their final 33 games. So these were the best 2 teams during that stretch to end the regular season. These are the 2 teams we're going to get in the NBA Finals. It gets underway Thursday on ABC. Mavericks, a 5 seed, Matthew, the first team since the 2010 Lakers to beat 3 50-win teams to get to the NBA Finals. What are you looking for here between the Celtics and the Mavericks, and your just maybe initial reaction to the matchup we are graced with here in 2024?
I mean, honestly, I'm just amazed by what a difference a couple trades can make. I mean, Daniel Gafford was huge for them. Drafting Derek Lively has been great for them. P.J. Washington has been a revelation in what he's been able to give them. So really, and then they signed Derek Jones, who I think really gives them valuable minutes off the bench. I'm happy. I'm happy for Kyrie in particular. I think if they win, I think a lot of people have said that like if they win that like this puts Luka in a different category. While I do agree, I think it's bigger for Kyrie Irving just because this is a guy that just a couple years ago, Stephen A. Smith said he should retire.
It was crazy.
It was pretty crazy. I mean, this guy was harangued by a lot of people, and I think this kind of gives him what Dennis Rodman got with being back with the Bulls. A lot of people don't remember Rodman was almost out of the league because he had a terrible year with San Antonio, a lot of behavior, a lot of things that the Spurs organization did not like, and they actually got rid of Dennis Rodman for Will Perdue. So that should tell you just how much they wanted to get rid of him. So, I love what Dallas has put together there on paper. I'm just really looking forward to seeing what the difference will be for the Boston Celtics with Porzingis. I think Porzingis is going to be huge for them, but also it might take a little bit of their chemistry that they've been putting together during the playoffs. But I would argue this is the real challenge for Boston. They have not been challenged at all during this playoff run.
And we talked about that off the air, of course, in the group chat with Jason, who, of course, is excited to see his Celtics. We were excited to talk to him about his Boston Celtics and what he expected from them in the NBA Finals. And, of course, we talked about the first round, easy relatively for Boston. They dropped game 2 to Miami to a team without Jimmy Butler. They go on to win that series. Who do they have in the second round?
The Knicks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, it was just Indiana and now 4 games out of Halliburton. So it was an easy road. We have a picture to describe how that road looked for the two teams at some point, and we'll have Dennis put that up on the screen here. And there it is. Jason Tatum with some little dolls in front of him on that bridge as the Celtics get to the finals, and Luka going through a lot more down there on the bottom. Yeah. That's kind of how it looked like, and that's kind of how it felt going in. But it's going to be a great finals. Before we dive deeper into it, we do have a little bit of a finals preview video. Dennis, do we have that queued up as well? Just to kind of dive into some of the bad blood that you mentioned. You talked about Porzingis. Rumors are Luka and him don't get along. That did not go well, did not end well.
No.
So they don't like each other there. And then, of course, Kyrie and Boston, they don't really like each other either. So a lot of other sub-storylines in these finals that are going to make it that much more fun. And we'll take a look at the video if we've got it now.
Kyrie, how important is it to see number 11 up there one day?
It's quite important. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Boom!
So.
That chant is about Kyrie Irving.
How are you motivated to change the perception of yourself?
That's another route.
They get free. Throw it in the corner. Brown fakes, fires up the three. Bang! Bang! Gobert's out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it! Got it! What a shot! Always got to rain on the parade. Look at JB. He dropped Doncic. For the Dallas Mavericks. Irving dancing, prancing, pulls up, three-pointer. Bang!
With the second pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Jason Kidd.
In desperation,
What kind of things are you looking for, I guess, in your life, and what kind of situations would be a positive situation that you want to be in when you?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just trying to make it back to Boston first.
A lot of great storylines to pay attention to in this year's NBA Finals. I would ask you, Matthew, what your favorite one might be. Is it the Kyrie, versus Boston? Is it Porzingis versus Dallas? You got Jason Kidd now as the head coach, obviously, of the team that he won a championship for with Dirk. Jason Tatum, redemption story. Jaylen Brown says he's been getting disrespected. What do you think? Missoula, after what he did last year, everybody kind of maybe wanted a coaching change in the offseason. He, of course, leads them to the best record for an Eastern Conference team since 2012, 2013. LeBron and the Heat, they won 64 games. What do you like the best here?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm probably going to take the road that many aren't going to take. I think many are going to take Kyrie, and some will take Porzingis. I think for me, it's Jason Kidd, just because of the simple fact that when he was drafted, Dallas was putrid. I mean, they had Jimmy Jackson, they had Jamal Mashburn, and, I mean, they still couldn't get it together. I mean, they were a pretty bad team. They did improve under the 3 J's, but, I mean, internal strife caused them to break up and get shipped around. So I'm excited to see Jason Kidd finally get his due. I don't think he got enough respect for what he did with Giannis in Milwaukee. So I will enjoy this immensely to see Jason Kidd get a title.
Yeah, again, did it as a player. Now going to try to do it with Dallas as a coach. Mark Cuban no longer, I guess, the big-time owner, right? He gave up a major percentage, but he's still there, big part of the team. Wasn't on the podium during the Western Conference, or was, but not in the mix there. Right. So weird to see that. But just to talk a little bit more about the matchup in depth, the Celtics have reached the East Finals 6 times in 8 years. They played in and won more playoff games in that span than any other NBA team, right? We talked about them finally getting over the hump, 64 wins, this year, 12-2 through the East bracket this postseason. Just 4 of those games had clutch minutes, which means the game actually came down close down the stretch. Porzingis, we talked about it. He's expected to return. As you take a look at now some of the statistics here that are with these two teams, Doncic and Tatum, the leading scorers. Title odds, Boston the favorite of -225. Dallas, the underdog, at +180. 6.5-point favorites are Boston in Boston at the Garden on Thursday. Jaylen Brown, Matthew, your Eastern Conference MVP. He took home the Larry Bird Trophy. Was shocked, I guess, to say the least afterwards. He said, I don't win explicitive after, but he got this award, 25 points, 54% from the field. It was going on, at least we haven't been on the air in 3 weeks. A lot of the talk was some of the other networks and stuff in prime time. Talked about Jaylen Brown, and Stephen A. came on with a quote on ESPN that said he was told from a source that Jaylen Brown is not marketable enough, and that's something, that's why he doesn't win the stuff, et cetera. What do you think about the lack of respect, or do you think there is for Jaylen Brown and even Jason Tatum for what the Celtics have done this year?
I think Brown is immensely disrespected. I think Tatum has been a guy that is getting a lot of pub, a lot of push. I think I agree with Stephen A. in this. I think between the two, Tatum is probably the most quote unquote marketable. But I think Brown is just as talented, just as marketable. I think Brown suffers from just being around another dominant wing who really has made his mark in the game and is one of the best young scorers. I think there's things that Brown does defensively that Tatum can't do. I think there's things that Brown can do offensively that Tatum can't do. And vice versa. Tatum does things that Brown can't do. So I think they complement each other well. I'll say this. If they go to the finals and they don't win, that's where I think we're going to see some of this talk become more in the faces of people.
And let me ask you this. Excuse me, it's been a talk now. They obviously have underachieved with what the expectations were the last few years, right? The NBA Finals, a few years ago, they were the favorites heading in against the Celtics. Obviously, they were the favorites when they lost to the Heat last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they don't get it done this year, I mean, the talk in those previous years was, you got to break up Tatum and you got to break up Brown. They've been reluctant to do that, obviously, as we said here, too, something that they probably shouldn't explore yet. But if they were to go down again this year, coming off the best record in the East since 2012, is that something you think they might explore, or you would explore yourself if you were in Boston?
I would explore it.
And which guy would you stick with?
Well, I like Brown more, but I probably would shop Brown, despite me saying that, just because I think Tatum's the more marketable between the two, and it's probably the guy that Boston Celtic fans are more tied to. it's going to be difficult. If they don't win, this is going to be a difficult narrative for them to keep that in place. There's already tension between Brown and Tatum more than people like to think there is.
Yeah, it's all hidden right. When you're winning, everything's under wraps. Nothing comes out until you lose. And like you said, if they were to lose in this series, no matter if it was in 4 games or if it went 7, if the Celtics lose this series, I think you're right. Yeah. I think some things are going to be said when that's all said and done.
Because they're all saying all the good stuff when the camera's on them, but I think in their mind there's a view that maybe we're not perfect on the same team. Maybe I would do better if I had a player that played a little bit like this or a little bit like that. I do think that there's those conversations had with these guys because you can see there's a little bit of tension. I'm not going to say that it's daggers are out and they don't like each other, but I do think there's questions like, are we a good fit? I do think that those questions are still being asked. Because think about it, in the history of the NBA, I would say this, when usually 2 young talents merge together, the last question that comes out is all this stuff that we've heard about Jaylen Brown. I mean, it was Anthony Hardaway and Shaq. It was, they're the next Magic and Kareem. When it was, there's just so many guys.
There's been multiple scenarios you can go through over the years. And I was going to ask you, when was the last time we saw 2 young guys like that have success that young together? It rarely happens. And then you see the breakup, and maybe later on down the road they find that success with other teams with other players.
Yeah, and like in Philly, we heard the rumblings with AI and Stackhouse. There was, wait a minute, I don't know if this is going to work. You start hearing little things. So, sometimes where there's smoke, there is a little bit of fire. It may not be raging, and winning cures all for sure. But, we've seen it. Sometimes things come out when people start losing. And it wouldn't shock me if this were to befall them. It wouldn't shock me if the brass says maybe this isn't the perfect matchup for us.
And then, obviously, in previous years, it was Tatum who was the first-team All-NBA player. That was the case this year in the regular season. Brown, a second- and third-team All-NBA player. But then you come out in this game, and now Jaylen Brown wins the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Right. He's got the Larry Bird Trophy. So, maybe we'll see if that jealousy from Tatum sets in or something like that. Again, you don't intend to think that from players like that, but you never know. And sometimes Tatum, who had better numbers in that series, not shooting percentage or something from the field, but more assists, more points, more rebounds, didn't get the award. It was Jaylen Brown. So maybe Jaylen Brown complaining a little bit about not getting the recognition maybe helped him out here bring home the Larry Bird Trophy. He could have, but again, I'm a Jaylen Brown fan too. But again, we'll see how he does in the finals, because as of right now, all the Celtics fans can think about is the finals, a few years ago, and then the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
Yep.
So we'll see. Of course, the Celtics have been the best team in the regular season, the highest net rating in a long time, and that has continued for the first 3 rounds. Though, quote-unquote, cakewalk, if you will, right, in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk now a little bit about the Mavericks.
Yep.
Eliminated 3 of the West's top 4 seeds. Matthew, first team since the Lakers, as we talked about. Doncic sprained that right knee in Game 3 of the first round. He's obviously tending to it a little bit, hasn't slowed him down too much. The shooting, as we talked about in the last few weeks, isn't to where it usually was during the regular season. The percentage, he's not hitting as many shots, especially from 3, but the effect of Luka Doncic, one of the best players in the world, is obviously still there, and him and Kyrie have been fantastic so far in the playoffs. We talked about that addition of Kyrie. Me and you have been on the Mavs bandwagon since the start there, and I don't know if we had him winning the championship, but we were on them there. Doncic, 28.8 points, 8.8 assists per game, 51% effective field goal percentage. That was what he was doing in the playoffs. The regular season numbers are way beyond that, so he's taken a dip there, but Kyrie has been great. He's looking at some of his numbers, best in the playoffs since those times with Cleveland. What have you seen from the Mavericks, and what are they going to have to do to beat Boston? They played one time in the regular season. It was a blowout at the Garden in favor of the Celtics. That was before the Mavs were now what they are as the Mavs, with Gafford, P.J. Washington, Lively's playing fantastic as a rookie in that defense. What do you see happening here, or what do you like about the Mavs, and how do you see this matchup going now as we dive deeper into it?
I think the Mavs are the perfect, I guess I would say, matchup for Boston. Hasn't really seen, because you're dealing with Luka, who is a facilitator, scorer, and then you're dealing with Kyrie Irving, who we all know what he is. He's just a guy that you really can't keep from the basket, 1,000,001 moves. But I think that the big thing for Dallas will be how they control that paint. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. Gafford in particular is a hyper-active guy who I think could give Porzingis some problems. I don't know if Porzingis is the cure-all that I think some Celtic fans view him. He is not a big fan of being very physical. He does not like physical play like that. He's not one of those guys that thrives off that. Gafford is kind of that guy. He kind of likes to get in there and get in your face and kind of let you know he's going to be there. And that could be problems for Porzingis. It really could. I mean, Gafford, he's just hyper-athletic, and he's just a guy that rim runner. Anywhere he gets the ball, he can finish it if it's around the basket. And then Lively, like I said, has been great as a rookie. No complaints there. And then P.J. Washington just has that versatility to score for him. And the guy that really has not done well for them in the postseason, who usually is a little bit better shooter, gives him a little bit more push on the perimeter, would be Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
Hardaway Jr. has really struggled. But again, he's a guy that if he gets hot, it could be a long series for Boston for sure.
Yeah, you could go on one of those heaters in one of those games. You could be looking at maybe a Tim Hardaway Jr. game, just like we were hoping to get that Buddy Hield game out of the Sixers. Wasn't enough late in there, but he could definitely bring that to the floor. Dallas has been the best team defensively, as Matthew alluded to, inside the paint at the rim. Yep. They're holding teams to under 50% shooting from that range. One of the lowest in the playoffs. And, of course, when Daniel Gafford's there, he's been number 1 in terms of rim protection in the playoffs. Lively, number 3 overall. So you got the 2 best rim protectors in the playoffs here with the Mavericks. They have been shutting down the paint all playoffs long. But for a team in Boston, you talked about the matchup, they love to shoot the three, right? They love to take a lot of 3 balls. It's going to be not as much packed in or taking it to the rim as much as Dallas has seen as some of these other teams.
Right.
And, of course, when you look defensively, Derek White has been fantastic. I think he might be the X factor in this one, especially, obviously, for Boston. A fantastic defender. He's going to get that Kyrie matchup here. The Boston can switch everything. Yep. It's going to be interesting to watch to see who takes Luka Doncic, who takes Kyrie Irving in terms of Tatum, Brown, and Derek White, and Drew Holiday. So I believe we're going to have Drew Holiday on Luka. Obviously, Luka's been public about what he thinks about Drew Holiday and his defense and how good he is. So when you got Derek White on Kyrie and Drew Holiday on Luka, plus you can switch everything with that length and versatility with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and then you add a 7-footer in Porzingis. It's such a tall task.
It is.
I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Dallas, but when you've got that superstar backcourt and when you're in a series, you want to have the best player in the series, and I believe Luka, and I think you might agree with me, is the best player in the series.
Yeah, for sure.
So and when you look at it that way, with that backcourt and those superstars, Luka and Kyrie, anything is possible. They can overcome that, but I think it's going to be tough with the way that Boston has played this year. They've got the perfect, I don't want to say roster or starting 5. That camaraderie's been good, but we've seen them trip up in the playoffs and in the finals, so we'll see if they do it again. But to me, it comes down to Derek White, both offensively and defensively. He can play good defense on Kyrie, make him work on the offensive end, and then he's hitting 3 balls on the other side and getting some shots to fall. It's going to be tough. I think that could be the X factor for Boston going forward. Let's go into a little bit of predictions, right? We don't have Jason. I'm sure he's going with Boston. We'll talk to him a little bit later on in the week. And then obviously next week, hopefully, maybe if he has some time, we can get him back and talk to him a little bit about what he thinks to the first 2 games. We're underway Thursday in Boston. They are the favorite in the series. They're the favorite in game 1. Which way are you leaning here? Boston, Dallas. I think it's going to be a really fun and exciting finals.
Yeah, I think Dallas will steal 1. I think they'll steal 1, the first 2. I think Boston will win the game 1. I think Dallas will make adjustments. I believe in Jason Kidd as a coach. I think he'll come out. I think he'll see how Boston plays game 1, and I think game 2 you'll see the adjustments. I really do.
So what do you think series long? What do you think in games and winner?
If Boston is Boston, it might be over in 6 games.
Boston 6?
Yeah.
I think, and again, my official prediction, I'm going with Dallas. I'm going to go with the Mavericks in 7. I'm going to go with Luka Doncic and the star power there.
Yep.
The numbers that he's been doing, one of the best postseason players in NBA history to this point for what he's done at 25 years old. I think also one of the best scorers, second to only Michael Jordan in scoring in the regular season throughout his NBA career. But what he's been able to do with Kyrie, I think they're on a roll. One of those teams that are getting hot, reminding me of the 2011 Dallas Mavericks once Dirk Nowitzki really got them going. Now you add Luka to what he's been able to do with those guys. Defensively, Derrick Jones Jr., you talked about the athleticism.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be a great defender for them. I like the way Dallas is playing. I'm going to go Dallas in 7 with my official prediction, but if Boston wins, I think Boston wins, like you said, in 6 there. But I'm going with Dallas in 7 games. Dennis, where are you leaning? Dallas in 7. Dennis, wow,
go.
Dennis jumping with me on Dallas. I didn't expect that, and I didn't tell him I was getting him his prediction either. So he did that on the spot there from Dennis. But going to be a fun NBA Finals. That's crazy. We're already to the finals.
I know
here right now. But Dallas and Boston, a lot of great storylines. It's going to be a great series. And of course, not only that, but the draft is coming up here in a few weeks as well. Going to be on ESPN, I believe, about a little over 3 weeks away.
Yep.
So just quickly here, Matthew, anything that you've learned or any changes you see, something I heard maybe there's some stuff going on with the number 1 pick and maybe it might not be Sarr. I mean, that always happens each and every year. But anything that you wanted to reference or talk about as we get closer to draft day?
I mean, it's going to be a wild draft. This is going to be one of those drafts.
It could be unpredictable, right? Who knows?
Yeah, this could be one of those drafts where I think there's going to be guys that people are going to see in the first round. They're going to be like, how? So, like, number 1, it doesn't shock me. I mean, really, it's a four-way horse race for number 1. I mean, you got Sarr, you got Topic, you got Ricochet, you've got there's talk about even Donovan Clingan being a guy, which I wouldn't do, but there's the talk.
That kind of draft.
Yeah, it's that kind of draft. And then you have the news about, of course, Bronny James, who everybody's been talking about.
Let me ask you, is that the biggest storyline coming into the draft? I feel like that's been the most talked about thing. Not the number 1 pick, not who's going to be the number 1 pick, not trades or, stuff like that. It's all been about Bronny James. And he will, and I don't know if we've been on the show since then, but it's been reported now, it's official. He will stay in the draft as you predicted and as we did here on the show. So has that been the biggest storyline?
It's been the most forced storyline. Yeah. I actually think that there's a lot better storylines in this draft, but for what the big networks have been hyper focusing on, it's been Bronny. I'm more interested, I would say in Edney, Zach Edey. I think Edey is a guy that, a couple years ago, he couldn't scratch the first round. Even last year, there was like a chance that he might. I think he goes late lottery in this draft. Wow. You've got Reed Shepard, who I think is a guy that's going to be a top 5 guy.
And and again, I don't blame these guys, right? Because this is the draft when you're not sure these unsure talents are going to go because they could be a top 5 pick,
right.
And then you might not see them again down the road. If I was Reed Shepard, I know I might do the same thing, but from a technical standpoint, I would have loved to see him go back to Kentucky.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, a lot of people wanted Bronny James to go back.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
You got to take the money, right? When the money's there,
he's gone. He's gone. He's gone. And you're going to see guys like, I think, A.J. Johnson will start heating up a little bit. He's a kid that, came from America and then went over and played in Australia, bypassed college. And he played really well in the combine. I actually think he's responsible for Bronny having that big game that he had in the combine.
And we talked about that a little bit, right? He was knocking down threes, had people on Twitter, guy going crazy. Did that skyrocket his stock at all, even a little bit? How much did that help Bronny in a game like that, if at all?
It didn't help him at all because he's basically looked at as a standstill shooter at this point, and he's 6'1".
That was my next question. With that height, can you be a? Yeah, we'll see.
But I think the most, if we're all being completely honest, I think the biggest storyline is Ulrich Kamchi. He's a kid from in Africa. He was actually walking to the store, and a basketball coach saw him, 16 years old, and said, "Hey, you need to come play ball." And, little than 3 years, he's put himself in a position where he'll probably be drafted. I don't know if it's first round. He's still very raw, but he's got a lot of the, I guess you could say pro potential that people like to see, athletic, great body. So he's a kid that, people are going to probably take a chance on. He might be a guy that goes in the first round even. Yeah, I think he's probably the best story, I think, if we're talking about storylines.
A little over 3 weeks away, right, from NBA draft. Matthew will have all of his stuff coming out, I'm sure, here relatively soon. We're going to go over here on the show. We'll do our NBA mock draft show as we get closer, so something to keep an eye out there. But we talked about Bronny James, so let's keep it in the family. Let's talk a little bit about LeBron James. It was interesting. It was raised a week ago. LeBron declining that player option. He is now, as Rich Paul has put it out there, LeBron is a free agent. That's a quote from his agent and friend Rich Paul. And we had this quote here from Brian Windhorst last week in terms of what LeBron could do possibly in free agency. And this is from Brian Windhorst. Other teams can do sign and trades, but the Lakers wouldn't have to cooperate. The 76ers are a threat. I don't think they are a serious threat, but certainly in the NBA, you never rule anything out. The 76ers are the only team in the league that can give LeBron the money and the raise that he wants. Nobody else can do it. They're the only ones. He's a free agent. Matthew, it makes too much sense to me. I'm going to start the campaign right now, and after every show, I'm going to plead for LeBron to come to Philadelphia. It starts right now. LeBron, come to Philadelphia. It's day one, show one. I'll put a montage of this together all summer long. Embiid's here, Maxi's here. Come on over. We'll take Bronny too if you want, and then we'll bring some role players in. It screams championship to me, Matthew. What do you think?
Cat. Brian Windhorst knows full well, because he's LeBron's.
Why you got to burst my bubble?
Because he's LeBron's mouthpiece. He knows full well that kid ain't coming over. He knows full well. Now, I'll say this.
It makes too much sense. They can give him the money he wants. They've got Embiid. They've got Maxey, the point guard, the big man, the MVP, the rising star.
It makes a lot of sense, sure, but it also makes sense that if I'm the Sixers, I don't know if I want them.
Oh, so that's a different perspective there. So let's talk
them.
about that. They've been linked to 4 guys, right?
Yep.
I'll give them to you. Jimmy Butler,
Yep.
32 or 33 years old, coming off another injury. Paul George, not very durable throughout his career. We like Paul George, 33 years old, 32, 33 years old. LeBron, much older, but he's LeBron James. And then the young guy of the group, Brandon Ingram, would be the 4th guy they're looking at. So if it's not LeBron, you think LeBron is not the top option on that list?
No.
So where would you go? Rank those 4 if you're Daryl Morey and the Sixers about where you're going with your free agency. You got all the money in the world to spend.
It'd probably be Ingram.
Number 1. So is it because of the youth? Is that why?
Yep. Ingram, George, and then who's the other gentleman?
LeBron and
Jimmy Butler.
So you got LeBron last on your list.
Yeah, but there's a reason why. Because when you get LeBron, you don't get LeBron. You get LeBron plus clutch. And then you get told what you're going to do on your roster. I mean, look, it's no secret. That's why he didn't stay in Miami, because he couldn't leverage. Right? He couldn't force Pat Riley to do what he wants him to do. And this move right here is a move of a guy just barking at the Lakers to say, "Look, I'll do it. I'll really do it." Okay,
I've seen it before a little bit. Right? He's done this a few times.
Yeah, hold me back. He's not going to do anything. He'll be in the Lakers because that's where he wants to retire. That's what he wants to do. I don't buy this whole thing. He's going to go to Philadelphia. I don't. And honestly, I gotta be honest with you. I don't know if I'm Philadelphia, I want to take that headache, man. Like, think about it. Do you want to take the headache of having him and having him then dictate to you what your team is going to do?
For LeBron James, again, with Daryl Morey, I would do it. I would pull the trigger. I want LeBron James in Philadelphia. I love Maxey, and he'll be there for a while. And we talked about Embiid's window, right? If you were to ask me who has a larger window, LeBron or Embiid, the rest of the way, you would still say Embiid. Obviously, that would be the answer due to the age.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's by a large margin. I think you can pair them together. You're trying to win right now, in my opinion, with the Sixers. And I would go after LeBron. LeBron would be top of my list. I'll deal with the other stuff. You get him back in a weaker Eastern Conference. I think it's the Sixers conference. Well, with the Celtics obviously going forward, I think those two would be the 2 powerhouses there, battling out for years for the next couple of years to come.
A couple years, though.
That's true. But it'll be a special couple of years with LeBron James in Philadelphia. So Brandon Ingram, talk a little. What do you like about Brandon Ingram, and what do you think he'd bring to the table?
I mean, I think his best basketball is still ahead of him. Yeah. I think he's got a wealth of talent, long. He's a guy that gives you mismatches. I think he's still learning the game and how to put things together. He is, a lot. If anybody didn't see the Pelicans play, it's not even when Zion's healthy. When they need a basket, they pull up a play for Brandon Ingram. I mean, he's that talented of a scorer. I mean, yeah, there's things about him that,
tough
sometimes.
Playoffs, a tough series in that first round.
He's a little soft, at times. I will say that.
Yeah.
But he's a great scorer. He's got good potential to develop even more. And I don't think he's reached I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet, but he's close.
And I do think that he will be traded. If it's not to the Sixers, I do think David Griffin
Sure.
has made that clear that they are ready to move on and break up some of that stuff down there in New Orleans. Sixers also reported they're looking to bring some of these role players back. Batum, Lowry, and Oubre were highlighted. And what do you think about that? If you're Daryl Morey, then what do you think about the role players? I liked what I saw out of Batum and Oubre. I'm a huge Lowry fan, obviously from Villanova. Seen him for years. Had a chance to meet him a long time ago. Great guy. But I like the other two a little bit better depending on the price. Where do you think the Sixers should go role player-wise?
Oubre, and Oubre.
It got to be under 15 mil, right? That's what we're hoping to keep it low.
I don't want Batum.
No Batum either. He came in, rumors are he wasn't sure how he would feel about Philly. Ended up loving it by the end of the season.
I bet he did.
If it's on the right deal, if you get him for the right amount of money, I'd bring him back.
Well, right amount of money, yes,
That's the
I'd take
key,
Batum.
right? That's
yeah.
what it depends.
Right around money, yeah. Right money, I would gladly take Batum. But if it's the money's a little, I don't know if I want him. But yeah, right money for sure. Batum's a good buy.
Sixers also at the 16th pick in the draft coming up, so we'll talk a little bit about that as we get closer to what they might do in that situation. And again, a big offseason, maybe the biggest in some time for the Sixers now coming up with a full blank slate, Embiid and Maxey under contract, and a lot of money to give, and some guys that might be willing to come over. So we'll see if Philadelphia can land that big fish free agent for the first time in a little while. So we'll see what happens with the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, here we go, LeBron. We need you. Come on over to Philly. Day one, LeBron and the 76ers. We'll put the montage together as we get closer to free agency. But day one here with our LeBron to Philadelphia campaign. It starts today. Now we're going to change sports. Let's head to the football field. Justin Jefferson, he's been sitting out, obviously, the voluntary workouts. He wanted that new deal. They've been talking for over a year, and he now will get the biggest deal for a non-quarterback in NFL history. He learned something from Kirk Cousins during that time in Minnesota, how to negotiate 4 years, $140 million, $110 million guaranteed for Justin Jefferson. So you would imagine CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, they're all now negotiating, trying to get the next, one-upper on that deal, but a huge deal for Jefferson. We'll see if those other guys can get there. Your thoughts on J.J. back to Minnesota? We have J.J. McCarthy throwing to J.J. Justin Jefferson. So it's J.J. to J.J. Yeah. We were talking before on the show, and one of the things I said to you was, even from a fantasy football perspective and also an NFL perspective, I might have tested free agency if I was Justin Jefferson. I know you like Minnesota, but you lost your quarterback in Kirk Cousins. You're coming in with an unknown. Sam Darnold's the starter as it stands right now. McCarthy is obviously anticipated to be the quarterback for years to come, but he's an unknown. They took him really early in the draft. I know I didn't have a great grade on him, or at least a very high grade as the other guys I did coming into this one. So the verdict's not out on J.J. McCarthy yet. Some people have high expectations, but I think it could be tough here. You're now under contract for 4 more years, and say J.J. McCarthy hypothetically doesn't work out, you're in no man's land, right? You're in Minnesota. We saw what happened after Cousins went down last year. It was a struggle for Jefferson the rest of the way. He's now got his money, so that's what it's about, but he's there in Minnesota for 4 years. What do you think of that? Do you think that's obviously the good move for him to take that contract, or how do you think about, I think from a fantasy football perspective, and we'll talk about that here on a fantasy as we get closer to football season, I think it hurts him a little bit going forward.
Hurts him a lot.
So you're with me then?
Yeah, I would test it free agency, and I would not stay in Minnesota. I just don't think that's a viable.
And again, richest contract for a non-quarterback in history, so money talks. But
right, I just don't think he's going to get the production he thinks he's able to get. Even if, and again, this is what I tell people all the time. The problem with McCarthy is, let's just say he has a above average rookie year.
Yeah. And before just he's in the best situation, right? For a quarterback. He got the best situation at any of these first round quarterbacks.
Right. And let's just say he has a decent rookie year, even a good rookie year. It's still not a situation where it's a guy that you would want to rely on with Justin Jefferson. If you had Justin Jefferson in fantasy, that's not a situation you want to be in.
Again, especially in Dynasty, right? That's where I'm looking. If you're in Dynasty, and now going forward, maybe that affects where you draft him this year, too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't take Justin Jefferson in round 1, and I don't know if I take him in the first half of round 2.
And I'm with you there, but that's a contrarian point of view for sure. Yeah. But again, he gets that money. He's been negotiating for over a year, so now we'll see if CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, these guys are next up. T. Higgins, there was rumors about him obviously wanting out, and I don't know if he'll be there come the start of the season. But I wanted to play that fun game that Justin Jefferson was going to co-reunite with Burrow and Chase over at Cincinnati. That's where I thought might happen a little bit later on. They'd have to obviously fork out a ton of money for that, but not realistic. He re-signs in Minnesota. We'll see if that was a good decision for him, obviously, as time progresses. So we'll see. So before we end today, I do want to go over a few more NFL things here as we get closer to that coming up with WAR workouts, etc. I'm going to do a little over-unders with you again. We talked about it a few weeks ago with Jason. I'm going to give you a team. I'm going to give you their over-under. And I'm going to see what you think of that and if you're going to take the over or the under on the team. So let's start with a team that we talked about last year in the AFC South. We'll do two in the AFC South today, and one of them is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over-under is set at 8.5 wins. High expectations. Last year, Lawrence was hurt. They didn't really get to where they wanted to go. They lose the division, of course, to, I believe it was the Texans won the division, and they weren't even in the battle. It was the Texans and the Colts battling for that division, so Jacksonville wasn't even really in the mix. They lose Ridley to the Tennessee Titans. Trevor Lawrence comes back, supposed to be more healthy. Gabe Davis comes over. Jacksonville was a team that we were high on a few years ago, 8.5. This seems like a little bit of a low number here for the Jaguars. What do you think about upcoming season for Jacksonville and Duval County?
I think they go a little over. I can see a 9-win team with them. Maybe a 10, depending on if things go.
And again, maybe they get a little bit of a weaker schedule after not winning the division last year, and Lawrence trying to get a little bit healthier. So we'll see how that goes there. Another team with 8.5 will go now to the AFC West and the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh in his first year with Justin Herbert and company, 8.5 for the Chargers in that tough division out west.
I ain't buying it. I'm going. I'd say 7. I think
need some weapons too.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is, and look, I don't have a problem with the Joe Alt pick, but it's what I said on draft night. I don't know who he's gonna throw to. Like, I don't. Like, it's sad to say.
Palmer better get loose because that's...
Yeah. I mean, look, unless, and again, look, they know stuff that we don't know. Maybe he had some workouts and guys look way better than we thought. But I'm telling you, from what I've seen, I don't know who he's throwing to. So I'd say 7.
7. It's tough for me for the Chargers. I'll go over. I can't believe it's that low. I think they could be 7 or 8. I'm going to go 8. I'm just going to go with 8 just because of the Harbaugh factor. They're going to run ground pound. Maybe they'll get some stuff going. I think they can win 8 games.
I don't believe in Harbaugh, though, so.
Oh, but I saw it was 8.5. So do I think they can win 9 games? That I don't know.
Yeah,
so that changes things.
I think Harbaugh is a little overrated as a coach, but that's just me.
Yeah, we'll find out. Depends, right? And that's coming from a 49ers fan. Too. Let's jump quickly to the Buccaneers, division winners. Dennis's team is sitting behind you. They over/under set at 7.5. They were a couple minutes away from going to the NFC Championship game. 7.5 for Tampa Bay. Does that seem low to you? Though they will get the schedule for a division winner this year.
No, I think that's about right. I think the glass slipper breaks a little bit for Baker this year. And I think the Bucs are in a very difficult situation. I think they've got some aging assets, and they don't know how to move off of them yet. I don't know. Some of those guys they got, it's like, man, I get why you're doing it. I get why you have them. I just don't know if that's the right move.
It's going to be a tough one. Last one I got for you here, and it's another tough one. 9.5 for the New York Jets. Supposed to be a big number last year. Rodgers goes down the first play of the game. Achilles gone. Season gone.
I'm going 11.
11. So you're believers in the Jets this year with Rodgers coming back.
Yeah, I am.
I like the roster. The defense looks good. We'll see.
That O-line is the bigger question now.
How will those guys, right? You got some older free agents. They made some draft picks too. How will those guys mesh? And can they stay healthy? I think Moses and Johnson, the two linemen, obviously in the offseason, 33 or 35 or older.
Yeah.
So we'll see if but we've seen linemen do it for a long time. So if they can stay healthy and play well, they'll be good to go. So there you have some over-unders here as we're going to do some more each and every week before we get to the football season. I will say, though, Caleb Williams, you see any of those clips? Social media?
I don't believe Caleb Williams. Man.
Caleb Williams looking good. And,
looking like Ben Simmons.
No defenses yet, really. No hitting or anything, but he's looking good.
Looking like Ben Simmons, man.
You see, he's been out posting a little bit recently.
Of course,
too.
always.
It's summer Ben Simmons. Every summer. Ben Simmons, he thrives in the summertime.
He does. He thrives, man.
Australia, though, didn't want his services. I think he'll be playing with Australia this year. So they're going to move on, obviously, from Ben Simmons, as well as a few other people that have done so in the past. So we're going to wrap it up here with our final words. And Matthew, I know you got something on your mind here. We're going to close the show, as always, with something that, we want to talk about, obviously, or something we feel strongly about. A lot of stuff going on in the WNBA right now. Caitlin Clark took a hard shot against the Chicago Sky in a hard-fought battle over the weekend. It's been the subject of multiple discussions throughout national television, and I'm sure all the viewers want to feel how Matthew's feeling about it and get your perspective and point of view, so we'll give you the camera here. Matthew, what do you think about the Caitlin Clark situation, the WNBA, and everything that has unfolded since she's been a draft pick?
So I've been watching and reading, and I've been watching and reading a lot of the guys in particular, and guys that tell me that they're NBA guys. And here's my problem with the NBA guys, and it kind of illustrates that this is how soft the NBA is now. That we're looking at this Caitlin Clark foul, and we're saying that it's assault. We're using those words, assault. Bro, some of you dudes that grew up in the 80s and 90s don't talk basketball to me anymore. We grew up with the Bad Boys. We grew up watching John Starks literally decapitate people, Charles Oakley.
On your screen.
I mean, come on, man. What are we doing here, bro? This is assault. That's a love tap, man. I done seen harder fouls than that in high school, bro. What are we doing here? This is how punk you guys are? Look, man. I'm just saying, at a certain point, this is the biggest problem I have with the WNBA, and in particular, I'll say this. I'll just say it. The men that watch it. Dog, you wouldn't want players to come in and kiss the butt of every rookie that comes in, bro. You wouldn't want that. You would be like, dog, that's soft. Don't do that. But this is literally what you expect the players in the WNBA to do. You expect them to get on their knees and praise Caitlin Clark. Nah, bro, she got to earn it. She got to earn it. They're dogs. They ain't going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, you're the best thing since sliced bread. Please come in and do it. Do whatever you like. No, it's never going to happen. And you got these fools out here. This didn't happen to Wemby and Jordan. That's because you're an idiot. Yes, it happened. Happened to Jordan all the time. He froze him out of an all-star game.
Yeah.
Froze him out of an all-star game, for Pete's sake. What are y'all talking about, man? Like, I don't get these people that tell me they grew up with me, and then they go out and they say that Caitlin Clark's being roughed up. You didn't grow up with me then, bro. I'm sorry. Maybe your mama put you in a bubbled room and you ate paint chips because you wasn't hanging with me. Because, dog, that foul is typical foul we used to see on the streets all the time, dog. For some reason, now all of a sudden it's an assault. Bro, what are we doing here? This is corny. I don't understand it.
I wish they would have heard and saw assault thrown around. That would have made me laugh a little.
Dog, it's crazy, man. This is what I'm
funny.
saying.
No,
Like,
but-
and look, I get it. Caitlin Clark is phenomenal. I get it. But, bro, what these people supposed to do? Say, yeah, Caitlin, you're phenomenal. I'm just going to let you score. What?
And let me ask you, go back, because that was a good point you made with Wemby. That was an interesting one, too.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I would have thought because LeBron even had a little bit of hardship there when he was in the league as a rookie. From his own teammates, it's been reported and stuff like that. I don't know if I saw, and again, I didn't watch every game that Wemby played in, but I think Wemby kind of had a pretty nice introduction to the game. I think a lot of people liked Wemby. I don't know why or what the issue was. Is it because of how he's 4 and you can't really rough up a 7'4" guy like that? Because
he took guys were face guarding him pretty tough. The thing is, and I'll say it right now. People ain't gonna like to hear this, but literally in a couple games, we all were like, okay, I see why this dude's that dude. Like, Caitlin Clark ain't shown it, bro. It just hasn't. The smaller you are, the more people gonna hit you. That's just what it is, man.
No doubt, it's agreed.
I mean, dude, 7'4". LeBron was 6'8".
Yeah.
Like, they're not taking the same type of hits, and that's the thing. Like, it looks bad because Caitlin Clark is pretty small, and she getting hit.
And I want to give you another example because this is one that stood out to me, and one that I think fits it the same was Lonzo Ball. When Lonzo came out,
right?
They were. I mean, it was he was circled because of his dad and everything he said. Right. It was. I watched every single throughout the first season with Lakers. It was. He took that every game. I mean, it was from the opening tip. Patrick Beverly, whoever it was jersey to jersey, face to face, the whole. And he hadn't played a game yet. I mean, it was crazy to think about.
And we grew up in Philly here. You gonna tell me Allen Iverson didn't get hit? Come on, man. What are we doing? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, these dudes are telling me they grew up with me and they watched basketball in the 80s and the 90s. No, you didn't, bro. You didn't watch no games, bro. I don't know what you was watching. You weren't watching the games I was watching.
Maybe some highlights.
Yeah, this is nothing, bro. Like, this is nothing. And like, people are making excuses for her because she's not doing well. And look, anybody who knew the WNBA knew she was going to struggle.
Yeah, it takes some time. I mean,
we all said it in the draft show we did here. It's the league that cuts first-round draft picks. Bro, it was going to be a tough hill to climb for her. But for some reason, people just thought she was going to come in there and everybody was going to be like, yeah, it's cool. You good? Yeah, sure. We'll just let you eat. Like, no, man, that ain't happening, bro. It's corny to me. As I'm saying, these people out here that tell me that they rough basketball. No, you don't. You like punk basketball, bro. You don't like no rough stuff. You can't tell me that. I'm sorry, man. This is even the worst thing to say. There's a lot of men talking about a sport they didn't talk about last year, the year before, and the year before.
No doubt about that.
And you can tell. I mean, dude, anybody who knows that girl fought Alicia Thomas, bro. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about size. Alicia Thomas almost clotheslined Angel Reese. No one talked about that. Almost decapitated her, hit her in the throat this year. No one said, it's assault. Homegirl gets hip checked and all of a sudden it's assault. And dog, come on, man. What are we doing here, bro?
And they were battling throughout the game, both of those two in particular. It was a battle for sure. And again, we talked about, and even in the WA, and you said it, right?
Yeah.
We expected a little bit of a gap, right? When she got there, she doesn't have the size just yet either.
No.
She's a smaller guard. It took a lot of the girls you see now. Brianna Stewart's now, 29 years old? I mean, nobody's able to go directly in and dominate like that unless you have
that's
that.
it.
Oh, yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a different story. And
Different story.
And we're both saying, and I'm sure you're saying it too, she will be fine. Obviously, in 2 or 3 years from now, she's going to be
good.
Just as advertised.
She's going to be good. But I think, and this is the other thing that no one wants to talk about, she's going to be better when they take her off the ball, like they did with Sabrina Ionescu in New York. She's going to be better when she's able to hunt for shots and get clean looks like a Curry does. Like Stephen Curry doesn't come down and set up the offense. That goes through Draymond Green or somebody else like that. Like, they're having her come down, create shots, and then create offense at the same time. It's just very difficult with the game that she plays. So, like, people are shocked. I don't know why you're shocked. Like, and then I saw somebody saying, well, yeah, look at Diana Taurasi's stats. Yeah, Diana Taurasi's almost 40, bro. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here?
There.
We're comparing a 40-year-old that was the bomb when she was Caitlin Clark's age. Like, really, this is what we're doing? This is what we're doing because we love Caitlin Clark so much? I just don't get it. And you know, it's highlighted something else to me that I think that bothers me the most about it, and that is, like, the racial, I almost want to say turmoil. Like, I get it. She's white and she's good and I get all that. But, like, bro, we saw this with Larry Bird. We saw this with other guys. Luka Doncic. I mean, Luka Doncic got called Montreal's Herald called him an effing white boy. like dog, like, it's if you're a white athlete, like, and you're playing in a predominant black sport, many of them have talked. Even JJ talked about this. Like, dog, Kevin Love, Kevin Love said he has been called a beep ass white boy. That's what he said. That's what he said on and he said he laughed because, like, he knew he was doing good then if that was what he was being called.
I mean, yeah, if you're naive to think that stuff like that doesn't go on,
right?
I mean, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, there's black players that said that Larry Bird occasionally would hit them with stuff. So, like, it happens in sports, man. Yep. Like, for people to think that this is going to be some non-competitive game where Caitlin Clark's going to go out there and shoot, and the opposing defender's going to say, that's a great shot. Great shot. You got that right in my face.
Like a Chappelle Show skit.
Yeah, like, what are we doing, bro? Like, dude, of course, people are going to go back and forth. It's competitive shit, man. And look, I give Caitlin Clark tons of credit. Look, she's standing in there. She's taking her hits. She's taking her lumps. And like you're saying, she's going to be fine. But this is the learning time for her. It's just what it is. I don't know why people thought it was going to be any different.
Yeah, because she's saying the right things, obviously, as she should. You know, nothing, things happen during the game. It's competitive. Of course, doesn't help the fact, of course, that the Fever have been one of the worst teams last few years, too. So, again, it's all going to get a little bit better, everyone. Just need to relax.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. That's good. Like Aaron Rodgers said, relax, take a deep breath.
She's going to be good.
And again,
relax.
we're talking more about the WNBA now than ever before in any aspect. So
That's
again,
a fact.
The league seems to be, in a way, thriving throughout this whole thing.
And we talked about them, too. I also want to talk about Rakia Jackson in L.A. She's been doing great. And then also Cardoza finally started, and she looked great. So, look, WNBA got more than one rookie. I know people don't like to hear that, but they got more than one rookie. Sorry.
Yeah, they're a great class, too. Cameron Brink over at L.A.
Cameron Brink's been fantastic. So, yeah, they got more than one rookie, man. This could be a draft class that we look back at, And we say, like, yo, this is like a 96 and 84 for the WNBA.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's just so much great talent. So we'll see. I mean, I really like the pieces that I'm seeing, though, out there on the floor.
Yeah.
So
Just enjoy it, everyone, right?
Yeah.
Just enjoy it, watch the games, and enjoy it. But you're absolutely right. NBA, not as physical now as it used to be, obviously, back then. Maybe the WNBA getting more physical than the NBA.
Yeah, man.
Of course. So
I
we'll see
think-
how it goes.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a fun NBA Finals. Gets underway on Thursday. Any other closing words as we close out here? And, of course, keep an eye on the McCalls as big night for the McCalls and DETV Sports.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Jason and his wife. I mean, look, this is a big day. I mean, it's not every day you get to hold your own. So and just enjoy it. Get ready for the burp. Get those cloth things over your shoulder because it'll ruin shirts. I don't know about anybody knows.
It ruins
the
shirts.
formula ruins shirts.
I don't know what they got in that stuff, but don't wear anything.
Shirt will never be the same again,
no,
bro.
Won't. You might have to toss it out. Well, we missed you tonight, Jason, but of course, bigger things. And now his Boston Celtics will battle for an NBA championship, and now Deuce gonna maybe get to watch Jason and Deuce watching the finals together.
There you go.
Sounds like an amazing thing there. So for Matthew, myself, Jason and his family at the hospital, and of course Dennis behind the glass, we are back next week on Monday for another edition. We'll be 2 games into the finals, so we'll pick it up with the Mavs and the Celtics, and of course a lot more to get into here on DETV. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you next Monday.
And Otani bet it.